First, I want to apologize again as I borrowed part of a live lecture for this to save some time. The quality is not the best, but the information should be included. This is going to be the last section that we will be having an assignment from, and I'm actually going to combine the block assignment and your final project so that you have adequate time to work on it. We will also be covering intersections on next Monday. You will have until the end of the semester to complete this assignment. I need all assignments turned in by May 19th at 5 p.m., preferably sooner. Your final exam will be on May 17th, and it will just be a written exam because your final project is part of your final. So let's go ahead and get started on AutoCAD Finishing Touches Part 2, which is going to include blocks and your final project. If you go to the second part of Finishing Touches, you will see it is about blocks and attributes. What is a block and why do we use them? Blocks are special objects that can best be thought of as symbols inserted into a drawing. You typically create blocks and they go into a library. These can then be saved into a location or your company template. They save time, and of course, time is money. The key factor with blocks is you don't have to do things over and over and over again. For example, if I wanted to put a toilet in, I just create a block of a toilet, and then every time I need to put that in, I just insert it. They keep things consistent and accurate, meaning if I draw a toilet a certain way, everybody else draws it the exact same way. If we each drew our own, we probably wouldn't have ours look exactly the same. But if we have a block in our library that we use, and everybody's looks the same and is consistent. And the last advantage to blocks is they are really saved outside of your drawing. So when you bring them into your drawing, they do not add size to your drawing. So they actually reduce the file size of our drawings. And again, all of these features save time, which saves money. A lot of times when you go to work for a company, the template that you start your projects with will have several blocks set up in it. These will be blocks that you consistently use in your particular type of work. There is another feature that we can tie to our blocks, and they are called attributes. So what are attributes and why do we use them? An attribute is text information saved with the block when it is inserted into a drawing. For example, if you put in a window, it can have tied to that the window size, the style, and the manufacturer. And then you can actually pull that information out into schedules from those blocks with attributes. You can also do material takeoffs and find out how to replace objects by finding out who the manufacturer is. You can tie costs to those. So the attributes are just an additional part of a block that actually has intelligent information tied to it, which again saves time, and time is money. So we're going to get started, and I'm going to open my AutoCAD. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to draw some objects. Let's say this is my part that I'm working with. There are different ways you can do blocks. Some people draw their blocks on layer 0, but I prefer to put things on the appropriate layers. If I do it on layer 0, whatever layer I insert it on, it picks up those properties. Again, I like to put them on their appropriate layers because that way I know it will print the way that I want it to print. The first one I drew was on layer 0. So now I'm going to copy it, and I'm going to put this one on 2 different layers so we can see the difference. I'm going to create 2 different blocks here. To create a block, I go up under Insert. You'll see I have something here called Create Block. We actually have 2 different kinds of blocks that we can create. We have W block, which writes to a location that you can use to insert to any drawing if you have a path set in the options. Block stays in one drawing. The command W block is an action to export items from your current drawing, whereas the block command inserts a block definition currently defined in your drawing. If I go to create block, it's going to bring up my block definition box. The first thing I need to do is I need to give it a name. So I'm going to name my block Part 1. Next, I need to give it a base point. I have to decide how I want to insert this part. Do I want to insert it from the center of the circle? Do I want to insert it from a corner of the rectangle? I have to decide how this part is going to be used. For example, if I were creating a toilet, I would probably pick the midpoint of the back of the toilet tank, so that when I place it in my drawing, I'm placing it with the back middle point of the toilet. For this one, I'm going to use my pick point, and I am just going to pick the top left corner. It automatically generated the coordinates of where that's at. Next, I need to select what objects I want to be included in my block. So I'm going to pick both my circle and my rectangle. And as you recall, I drew those on layer 0. I'm not going to worry about annotative right now. Next, I have to decide if I want my object to scale uniformly. If I want my object to scale uniformly, I want a check mark in that. If I don't want it to scale uniformly, then I would uncheck that. But typically we want it to scale uniformly. The next selection is allow exploding, and typically I do want to allow exploding. For example, if I just want to make one change to a block, I don't want to completely redraw it. So I can bring that block in, explode it, make that change, and then create a new block. Therefore, it can save me some time. So typically I allow exploding. Now I'm ready to click on OK. Now when I click on this part, it's all one object. I have created my first block. So now if I want to insert, on my menu to the left I have insert, and now you can see that block I just created in there. If I had 30 blocks in there, all 30 blocks would be listed there. But I only have the one right now. Next, I'm going to go ahead and create the block for my other drawing. And I'm going to call this Part 2. Again, I'm going to pick the top left corner. Next, I'm going to select my objects. And then I'm going to say OK. Now if I go to insert, you'll see I have 2 blocks. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go back here and I'm going to change my layer to object. Now I am going to go back to my insert, and I'm first going to insert part 2. So when I insert part 2, it came in on the object layer, but all of the parts and pieces stayed on the layers that I had originally drawn them on. The hidden line remained on the hidden layer and the object remained on the object layer. Now I'm going to insert the other one that I had drawn on layer 0. And you can see it is all on the object layer. People do it differently, but again, if you want it to pick up the properties of a layer, then you need to do it on layer 0. If you want your part to have different line types, layers, etc., then you need to create it that way instead of doing it on layer 0. We have now learned how to create blocks. The other thing we can do is we can actually bring other drawings in as a block. By going to Insert, I can select blocks from other drawings. So by selecting that, I can actually go out and bring in a whole drawing. If I have something in a drawing that I need as a background in this drawing, this would be kind of similar to what we did with the XREF. I can do that with a block instead. By bringing this in as a block, it is different than an XREF in the fact that if I make a change here on the block, it only changes in this drawing. If I make a change to the XREF, you'll recall it goes back to the original drawing and makes that change in that file also. Now that I have the drawing in place to edit the block, all I have to do is double click on it and it will take me into the same type of box that the XREF did. But it does look different than the XREF. My background is gray, and now I am actually in the block itself. I can now start editing that block and make changes. When I'm making my changes, again, I only want to leave things in this block that pertain to every drawing, because again, I'm going to have to add sheet numbers, etc. into this through my paper space, just like I did on the XREF. Once I have made all of my changes, if I click on the check mark, it asks me if I want to save the changes, and I do want to save the changes. Since this was brought in as a block, it only changed it in this drawing. It did not change it in the original drawing. That is the difference between an XREF and a block. I have added some multiple things to my drawing, and now if I go back to my insert, you will see all of those blocks that I've created. With these blocks in my file, if they were things I used all the time, I could save this into my template and have those available to use through my template. This is what you're going to do today to start your final project. You're going to insert your title block into your template file in Paperspace, and I will walk you through the steps as I always do, and then you will have that set up in your template from now on. You will not use the one we saved for the XREF. You will go back and use the one that we originally created when you created your title block. This concludes the portion on blocks. In the next video, we are going to talk about attributes.